Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Shiv, and we're going to be going over more cards from Knights of the Frozen Throne. Now, they've been releasing a bunch of them over the past few days, so we've got quite a bit to cover today. We're going to just jump right into it with the Ghastly Conjurer, 4-mana, 2/6 mage card, Battle Cry. Add a Mirror Image spell to your hand. So, Mirror Image, 1 mana, brings out 2/0/2 taunts. Seems pretty benign, simple, right? However, when you start thinking about, I don't know, Archmage Antonidas? Woo! So yeah, pretty much any deck that has ever used Archmage Antonidas can get some huge value off this. Currently, most of the decks that are out there are using things like Burgly Bully, because it's a 4/6, it's kind of big, so it can at least take some stuff, this, that, and the other. But that comes much later on in the curve, where you could play this on 4 and also get a cheap spell that you can play with Antonidas. Kind of makes some sense there. So this card could, in theory, bring back the whole Antonidas spam concept to the game. Now, where this card really seems to have a great place going forward is going to be in the Quest Mage, alright? Since this is outside of deck design, it kind of fits that it's going to advance that quest and make it a little bit more consistent. Personally, I like the card. I think it's kind of cool. In Wild, obviously, a Tempo Mage could come back and be somewhat decent there, and this will definitely play to that. Moving on. We've got Leeching Poison. So yeah, as much as I like that previous card, I don't really care for this one. 2 mana spell for the Rogue. Give your weapon lifesteal. Now, when you look at Rogue weapons, you've got like Perdition's Blade, Obsidian Shard, the Fork you could possibly get, an Assassin's Blade are pretty much the only current ones available. That may change, alright? Now, the problem with all of those is either you don't have enough durability, you don't have enough attack, or they're too damn expensive to be viable. But where things get interesting with Leeching Poison is when you combine a weapon with Leeching Poison and use a Blade Fury to clear the board. At that point, you can gain a shit ton of health back as long as your opponents have a bunch of minions on there. But the problem with this is it's a very slow line of play. And slow lines of play like that take several turns of setting up and preparing, especially for Rogue, are generally not very good. So I don't really see this card as having any value in a standard meta. Maybe something that's not a standard meta moving forward, maybe some sort of weird brawl, adventure, whatever. But no. Outside of that, no. It's just not good. Alright, next up we have Syndragosa. 8 mana for an 8/8 dragon. Battlecry, summon 2/0/1 Frozen Champions. Now, Frozen Champion is a 0/1 minion that has a death rattle of put a random legendary into your hand. Not in play, into your hand. Okay, the problem I have with this card is those Frozen Champions don't have taunt. Yeah, no, they don't have taunt. They don't have any means of attacking to trade or this, that, and the other. So they're kind of shit, to be perfectly honest with you. And in all honesty, I would pay 1 mana more for Syndragosa if the Frozen Champions came with taunt. But since they don't, it's kind of shit, alright? If I could play this out on turn 8, have 2 blockers to kind of slow things down, and have an 8/8 on the board, that would be great. And now let's say they kill everything. Boom. Okay, well, at least now I'm at turn 9. I've got some legendaries I could possibly play, and we could go to town. Matter of fact, at 9 mana, there's quite a bit of legendaries we could get our hands on. We got Alexstrasza, Malygos, Naganfire, Nosdomu, Ysera. Some pretty decent ones, to be perfectly honest with you. And then getting a 10 mana one, getting Yogg, that'd be great too. But, we're looking at the top end here. We could also get Patches and Shifter Xeris. So, I mean, there's definitely going to be some inconsistencies there. The card itself, as it currently stands, is not very good. And I really want to ask Yangwu and Ben Brode why the Frozen Champions didn't come with taunt. Because for a card like this, in order for it to have any kind of cool impact, it would really need taunt. It really would. Though I will say right now, the effect is pretty thematic to the visuals in Wrath of the Lich King involving Syndragosa, so I can't really argue it. I could, but I'm not going to. It works. All right, moving on. We've got Bring It On. 2 mana, warrior spell, gain 10 armor, reduce the cost of minions in your opponent's hand by 2. Okay, so let's talk about the good. 10 fucking armor, all right? That's like oh, thank you for the Alexstrasza. By the way, I don't think so, and I kill your Alexstrasza. Nice little 3 mana combination that takes you out of lethal range, kills Alexstrasza, and will probably leave you enough mana left over to add even more armor or develop more of your board again, or push for lethal, depending on what situation you're actually in at the time. So, yeah, I kind of like this card. Now, a lot of people have been bitching about it, saying, yeah, but, I mean, do you really want to give your opponents 2 ticks of Emperor Thurzan into what their current hand is? Most of the time, I'm going to say, no, you don't. This is one of those breaking in case of glass situations, or if your opponent is playing extremely top deck minded, where he's just expending all of his hand advantage for board advantage. All right, then yes, this makes a little bit of sense. The other situation that I came to realize that this would have some great value in is basically setting your opponent up to fail. Okay, and here's why I say that. As you're going into a turn where you can play Brawl, playing this out to build up your armor and could lead your opponents into a false sense of security. So what they end up doing is if they fall for this trap, they'll end up playing out these minions, boom, 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 really dirt cheap, and they'll have a bunch of them on there. Now, all of a sudden, Brawl gets some really good value because you force your opponents to expend a bunch of their resources that they had in their hand onto the board at one time. All right? Kind of makes a little bit of sense. Now, a good player is probably not going to fall for that trick, guys. So maybe in low ranks below 10, you might get away with it. But anything above that, you know, like 9 and to 5 to Legend, probably not going to work that well. But as a break in case of glass of Alexstrasza, this card is pretty damn fucking impactful. So keep that in mind. But all in all, I think it's actually a pretty decent card. Moving on. We've got the Voodoo Hexer. So 5 mana for a 2/7. Taunt. Okay. Freeze any character damaged by this minion. Now I did say in one of my previous videos, the only way like this shaman weapon would have any value is if we saw more freeze-like effects. Well, here you go, something to that degree. The downside is I still don't really see that as a really good way of doing things. Because now I got to carry a card that's not overly impactful and at the 5 mana slot. And then I got to carry a weapon that is extremely ineffective in this slot. And in all honesty, I'm just wondering, why don't I just play Hex and free up some more slots? And that's basically what I came down to. Sure, this is a nice alternative and it's kind of a cool card. And I can see its value in Arena. But outside of that, not really. You know, not really. It's definitely a tool that you could use to slow down early game aggression and deny your opponents any repeat value, or buy yourself, you know, some breathing room to possibly go for some sort of board clear. But outside of that, not really. I mean, I'm not a fan of the card. Moving on, we've got Bear Shark. Okay, before we talk about the card, let's talk about the art. The art on Bear Shark is amazing. I sent a message via Twitter to Sci-Fi Channel asking them to make a movie based on Bear Shark because, come on, we've all seen Sharknado and, you know, Mega Shark versus fucking Octopus God, whatever. They did a whole slew of these, you know, pseudo kaiju movie type throwdown things. Well, why not one with Bear Shark? Come on, think about it. It's a shark. It's a bear. Arrgh. You know, he could literally be like trolling the waters, attacking submarines in like Antarctica or up on the polar north area, and then he hops out of the water as a bear and just fucks shit up, you know? It'd be like the movie Thing, or The Thing, but with, you know, a bear shark. Come on, that could be cool as shit. No? Okay, but either way, I like the concept. Alright, so let's talk about the card. It's a 3 mana 4/3 Beast 4 Hunter, but you can't target this thing with spells or hero powers. So mages, fuck you and your Frostbolt. No, seriously, go fuck yourself. This card is actually pretty goddamn amazing. Because you can't target it with spells, gives it a lot more survivability, and hunters, most of their beast enhancements are based on battle cries from other minions, thus not spells. So this card can get some extreme values. Hey, you want to give it stealth as well? Boom, you can do it. You want to give it +2/+2 and taunt? Boom, you can do it. You want to give it Wind Fury? We can do that too. All in all, Bear Shark is just an amazing card. The downside, and this is probably the only downside I could find for Bear Shark, is how to fit it in to hunters. A long time ago, when I was making different hunter decks, I came to the conclusion that hunters' main number is 3. So many of their good value cards that they're pretty reliant on exist at 3 mana. You got your Eagle Horn Bow, Unleash the Hounds, Kill Command, Animal Companion. I mean, that's just 4 right there. Not even going to talk about some of the other minions that are kind of impactful as well. So loading up that slot with so many 3-drops is generally going to take away power for your late game, but it'll give you a very good sustainable mid game that you could possibly push for a victory condition. But it's not overly that simple. Personally, I think Bear Shark is going to get used. I think people are going to auto-pick this anytime they're playing Hunter in Arena and it pops up because it is a common. But as outside of that, I can't wait to see what some of the deck designs are because, as I said, that 3 mana number is going to be kind of that crux for it. Moving on, we've got Hadronox. Okay, so 9 mana for a 3/7 fucking spider beast thing. Okay, before we get to its ability, 3/7 is a very janky, and I do mean the word janky, stat line for a 9 mana card. It's actually kind of shitty. The fact that it doesn't come with taunt is also kind of a little bit of a shame here. But here's the thing. Death Rattle, summon your taunt minions that died this game. So yeah, it may not come with taunt, and its stats might be a little janky, but what it ends up doing is actually pretty goddamn impactful. Fact is, this thing could bring back a metric fuck ton of defensive options in your late game. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, yeah, but I mean, it's not really all that impactful because 7's kind of hard to deal with. If you're going up against token decks, it's kind of shitty. That is true. You're absolutely right. It is kind of shitty against token decks. The way you get around this is you have to include another card that makes it a little less shitty, but still kind of shitty, and that's Naturalize. Turn 10. Play this down, plus Naturalize. Ba-boom! Look at that. I got back all my taunts. Yeah, that's still kind of janky. It really is. The only way I see something like this actually working is in a heavy taunt ramp druid style deck. We saw these kind of exist back in the day a little bit, and they could actually come back moving forward, but it's kind of a wait and see sort of scenario. But I do kind of like it. I do. You might actually see this combined with things like you could possibly use it in a Jade deck to some degree, but not really. So yeah, it's just for like a heavy taunt druid type deck. Being able to get some of those big ass taunts back for value is kind of cool. I mean, Ironbark Protector just got some fucking love because of this card, but whether or not it actually sees play is kind of debatable. But it does fall into the Druid quest, so keep that in mind. All right, moving on to the next card we've got is the Abominable Bowman. 7 mana for a 6/7 Death Rattle. Summon a random friendly beast that died this game. Okay, so 7 mana minion for hunters. Okay. Yeah. Alright, so it's got Bolterfist Ogre stats with a kind of interesting Death Rattle, right? You know, bringing back a friendly beast that died this game. Okay, so let's talk about the really cool upsides here. Hey, you can get a high main back. That's pretty cool. Hey, you can get King Crush. That's pretty cool. Now let's talk about some of the shittier ones. Hey, you can get an Alley Cat back. Fuck you. Hey, you can get a Hungry Crab back. Fuck you. Hey, you can get a Dire Wolf Alpha. Okay, not nearly as bad, but still kind of bad. And I say it's kind of bad because it's not all high roll and fucking big power base there. But guys, let's be real here. You're paying 7 mana for a 6/7. So even on the lowest end of getting say like an Alley Cat or a Stone Tusk Boar, you're still getting a 7/8 worth of value for 7 mana. And your opponents are going to have to deal with that. Now, obviously, a 1/1 is not really that much to, deal with. All right, let's not joke around here. It's actually kind of lol. But you play a card like this as maybe a one-off for that high roll chance of getting like a third high main or some sort of mid-range play that's kind of good. Maybe a Scavenging Hyena or this, that, and the other. I mean, there's a slew of different possibilities of cool combinations. But what I'm getting to here is just killing this will not clear the board. You'll still be left with some sort of advantage that your opponents will have to either invest a minion in or invest a hero power or some sort of resources into dealing with. But is it worth 7? That's kind of hard to say. 7 life on its own is a kind of difficult place to deal with. Mages, obviously, they have to use a fireball and or hero power or forbidden flame to deal with this. So it's not really big of a thing. They can also drop the meteor on it and not really give two shits. So yeah, that's kind of a thing. It's kind of a thing there. But outside of that, a lot of other classes might have a little bit of a problem with dealing with it. So yeah, I would say it's at least decent as a one of. If you could kind of slot it into your typical hunter decks, I think you'll find some pretty good value out of it. All right, moving on, we have the Fate Spinner. Okay, so going back to the whole Druid quest and ramp druids, here's another card that kind of falls in line with that same philosophy of how things should work here. So here you've got a 5 mana 5/3, choose a death rattle secretly. So your opponents don't know what the actual death rattle is going to be. This is fucking amazing. This is literally a minion with a trap built into it, alright? Holy shit, a minion with a secret built into it, triggered by a death rattle. Mind blown. So, obviously, this is a card that people would consider, maybe we should look into possibly silencing this. Alright, cool, you could possibly silence this. I mean, there are a few of them that do exist. Matter of fact, Defias Cleaner is a card that could definitely be coming back into play, and if I remember correctly, it is a 6 mana card, so this could be played immediately following it. So yes, I can silence your Fate Spinner and have a 5/7 on the board, which you could trade into and still have to come up with 2 more damage in order to remove it off the board. Sure, why not? Obviously, you also got the Ironbeak Owl, you got the Spellbreaker, you got Silence, Master Spell. There are a slew of silences available in the game. But let's talk about some of the death rattles here. Deal 3 damage to all minions. That includes your own. Or give them all +2/+2. So some of you might be going, oh, fuck, I would never use that +2/+2. And for the most part, you're absolutely right. The only time you would ever select taking the +2/+2 is if you're pretty sure your opponents can't just kill this thing outright while having a full board available to them. If your opponents don't have a board, or they just put down 1 minion, they're low cards in hand, and you have like a Fate Spinner available to you, then you could just trade this into that minion, buff up all the rest of your minions, and possibly push for lethal. Remember, this is Druid. They have the ability of doing some really sick burst mechanics, thanks to things like Savage Roar. And now, this. So, all of a sudden, you can make a simple Savage Roar with very few minions on the board turn into double Savage Roar, for the most part. But let's be real, most people are just going to take it for the 3 damage all around AoE, because, it's one thing that Druids have been struggling with. But hey, it's a pretty decent card, and I like the concept of choosing a death rattle secretly. That way your opponents don't know what it is. I think this is a mechanic that deserves being explored a little bit more. And in all honesty, what I'd love to see is maybe an ability that combines Discover a death rattle effect for a minion. Like the minion is kind of blank, but it gets a random death rattle effect of your choosing via discovery. Now that's an effect I think would actually be pretty cool, right? And because it's kind of like a plague type, or I mean, it's a death rattle thing, you could keep it thematic in there and call it, just, pox or some shit like that. The ability would just be called pox or whatever. I definitely think that this is something that the card designers could look into moving forward. So you could take that whole choosing mechanic outside of Druid and have a viable and fun, vibrant mechanic involving death rattle minions moving forward. Just saying, it's kind of cool concept. All right. Next up we've got is Bolvar Fireblood. Well, why not? He is the current Lich King in the WoW universe. Makes sense. 5 mana for a 1/7. Okay, this seems vaguely familiar. Divine Shield. That's new. After a friendly minion loses Divine Shield, gain +2 attack. Okay, so the problem I have with this concept is, one, he's 5 mana, and the only way you're going to get any real sort of value is you're going to have to set up a bunch of minions with Divine Shield, and then trade them off the same turn you're bringing him down, or constantly be giving out Divine Shield to things like himself, and kind of trading in order to increase his value. This is possible, guys. This is very, 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 very possible. And as a matter of fact, this could be used in conjunction with Paladin Quest. But I don't generally think this is a very good ability. I kind of don't. No. I don't like it. I don't like it overly that much at all. It just feels like a meh ability. I mean, 5 mana legendaries generally have been traditionally kind of meh, with the exception of when Sylvanas was 5 mana, but this one just feels really lackluster, not overly that impactful, and there are other cards for 5 mana that have a grow effect that's a little bit more consistent. I mean, there's a Berserker that comes to mind. Just saying. So I'm not a fan, and I think the mechanic itself is not overly that good. Moving on, we have the Light's Sorrow. It's a paladin weapon with the same bad mechanic attached to it. Every time they lose Divine Shield, gain +1 attack. Now, obviously, if you could get all your ducks lined up in a row, you could knock it out of the park with a single shot. Yes, yes, yes. And, if I could just get a winning lottery ticket, I wouldn't live in squalor. Yeah, it's always talk about, those great, wonderful, high-end what-if scenarios. But this is Hearthstone. We don't live in the, 100% awesome, everything is perfect scenario. We live in the RNG will fuck you in the ass scenario. So likelihood that this card's ever going to see any kind of real value in regular gameplay on ladder and or competitive is just saying. It's not a very good card. I could be wrong moving on forward though, but I don't think so. All right, next up we've got is the Corpse Taker. See, I'm a little bit weird on this card here. Okay, so 4 mana for a 3/3 Battlecry, gain taunt if your deck has a taunt minion. Repeat for Divine Shield, Lifesteal, and Wind Fury. I like this card, all right? This card is definitely kind of one of those threat things, and it's a threat thing that kind of comes into play automatically, like, boom, here I am, I'm a threat, what are you going to do about it? And it's a little bit on that scale that I put the Vicious Fledgling with. The Vicious Fledgling can come out on turn 1 in Druid, and turn 2 for everybody else with coin without much of a problem, and if it's not answered, kind of can really screw you over, because it could end up getting Wind Fury, and then get Stealth, and then continue on that journey. This one, on the other hand, comes into play very vanilla, just with the 3, and you get the Divine Shield, and it has taunt, and it's going to get Lifesteal, so this thing could definitely get some really cool and interesting values. Now, if this thing came with charge, it'd be disgusting. Luckily, it doesn't. Alright? It doesn't. Corpse Taker, I think, could be a very interesting inclusion into some sort of new Shaman deck, for instance. Alright? Because there, all you need is Alakir and any sort of minion that has Lifesteal, and boom, you're instantly hitting every single checkpoint on it. So even if they have to kill it using just minion trading, this thing will heal you back for 6, just as long as you have those cards that I talked about in your deck. Not in your hand, but in your deck. So for that, a 4 mana 3/3 taunt Divine Shield that heals you for 6 in theory, and if it's not killed right away, deals 6 damage as well as healing 6 back. That's actually pretty goddamn good. That is some serious value there if you can pull it off. And if it lives, you know, things of that nature. So yeah, I like the card. I think it definitely has some potential. It definitely screams, I am a threat, figure something out to do with me, or I will make you suffer. And 4 mana is one of those spots that's kind of interesting. A lot of classes generally don't have many good options at the 4 slot. Like Hunter at least has the Houndmaster, but you need a Beast in play in order for that to have any sustained value. Warriors, generally you have your Core Crown Elites for your Pirate sets. Bloodhoof Braves for your taunt-based sets. Mages are pretty much in a weird spot there. Normally they're fireballing whatever big-ass threat you played on your turn. That way they don't have to worry about it on their turn, or they're just using a Arcane Intellect to refill their hand. Shamans are kind of in a rough spot. Normally it's just Jade Lightning to remove something and add a totem to the board. Druids, again, weird problems. And when you get to Paladin, you kind of have to worry about, you know, True Silver Champion. The cool thing here is True Silver Champion is really not that big of a threat as long as you've been managing to control the board. If you haven't been able to control the board, then you kind of get screwed over by a token plus True Silver Champion. But still, has some possibilities. And I like it. I think it's actually kind of cool. But even still, if he does take it out, you're still going to get at least a heal of 6. So, all in all, pretty good. Moving forward, we have Bone Mare. 7 mana for a 5/5 Battlecry. Give a friendly minion +4/+4 and taunt. Okay, so, let's take a 5/5 minion and combine it with a Blessing of Kings. That also comes with taunt. That's some serious fucking value. 7 mana for all that combined into 1. That is actually pretty damn good. The downside is you have to have a minion in play in order to get this value. Yeah, that's a little interesting. It might be a little bit harder. But this is definitely a win more card in every way, shape, or form. Having to play this blank on 7 mana is just horrible. If you have nothing on the board, you play this, you just feel like total dog shit. So, outside of that, I think in Arena, this definitely could be a card moving forward. I could see a lot of fun combinations with it. But, yeah. I'm still not sold whether or not this is a viable card for, say, latter. Moving on, we've got the Animated Berserker. 1 mana, 1/3. After you play a minion, deal 1 damage to it. Okay, so everybody get in here? Holla. Yeah, that's pretty much the first thing I thought of when I saw this. Like, oh, hey, Grim Patron. Next thing I came to is, well, fuck, it says Berserker on there, so obviously Enrage mechanics makes a lot of sense here. Even Frothing Berserker gets some value on this. I kind of like the fact that you can actually play an Enrage deck where you don't have to invest the same, overly too much in order to get the value out of it. And if you're up against Rogue, constantly doing 1 damage to your minions as they're coming into play really does fuck up their program, because then they can't really use Backstab as an effective trade tool as much. So there's that. But I don't know, man. I'm not sure this is viable in the current meta as it stands. Maybe in Wild I could see that, and maybe if like certain other cards come out, I could definitely see that. But right now, I don't know. Moving on, we have the last card we're going to talk about, and it is a Warlock card. It is the Sanguine Reveler. Now, I had talked to a lot of people before I saw this card, and I made a couple pretty broad and bold statements. And one of the statements I said is, we all need to watch Warlock and Priest. And everybody was like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's like, here's the thing. When Warlock is in a really good position, Priest is generally in a horrible position. When Warlock is in a bad position, Priest is generally in a good position. Now, that philosophy has proven about 80% true throughout the meta of Hearthstone. And with Unguro, it kind of got a little bit even more lopsided in some instances. But here we have a pretty goddamn strong 1-drop minion that doesn't fall into the typical disco Warlock that they've been trying to push on us. And as a matter of fact, this card fits into an archetype we haven't seen too much recently, and that is Zoo. And more specific, Death Rattle Zoo. No, guys, all right, stop. Put the Xanax down, stop being triggered. I'm not talking about Undertaker here, but something similar. All right, we're talking about Egg Zoo, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so Zoo worked with eggs pretty goddamn brilliantly, just due to the fact that, you know, they had things like power overwhelming to get some really good value off there. We lost power overwhelming. We lost a lot of the good synergies there. We lost the Nerubian egg, but guess what? We have the Devil Sword egg, which is a little bit different. 1 mana more for +1/+1 stats. You know, 5/5 is a lot more difficult to deal with than, say, a 4/4. And so, yeah. But here's the thing. It wasn't nearly as effective, right? Well, hey, guess what? Now you got the Sanguine Reveler. And guess what? You don't have to just use it on eggs. You can play down on turn 1 with coin, the Possessed Villager, plus this, get a 3/3 and a 1/1 on the board. That's pretty damn good stats. I don't give a fuck who you are. Your opponent is going to be in a very awkward position, right? Mages are going to have to use a Frostbolt, and that's pretty much the end of their turn. And you'll still have a 1/1 token on the board, which you could use for other things moving forward, but that's side point. Personally, I think the Sanguine Reveler fits pretty damn good into a classical Zoo-based design. And I kind of can't wait to see if we're going to get more cards that are going to enhance this. We haven't seen any eggs yet. And this is the realm where, you know, eggs are definitely something of a possibility moving forward. So I can't wait to see what else we're going to get. Anyway, guys, that is all for the card reveal review today. So let me know what you think down below in the comment section. And as always, guys, if you like these videos, please like, subscribe, upvote, all that other fun stuff. It really does help, makes me feel better, and it kind of helps support the channel. Till next time, as Shiv says, stay safe, have fun, may RNGs bless you. I'm out.